What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're giving you another Astonishing Times character spotlight episode, breaking down key characters that appear in the new Comixology original comic book series written by myself, Frank Barberry, and artist Rory Coleman. If you watched our first Astonishing Times spotlight episodes on Noah and Koken, and then Infinite and Gold Rush, you know how things go already. If not, you can watch those episodes right here. If you're still unaware of what Astonishing Times is, it's a 5-issue series that introduces a brand new superhero universe through a murder mystery, with the story being told from the perspective of a journalist named Noah Sands. But for a lot more detail on the book itself, check out the announcement and creators roundtable episodes for Astonishing Times that we posted here on the channel. Or better yet, you could also pick up Astonishing Times right now exclusively on Comixology and Kindle. I recommend that option, but again, just a touch biased. Links to grab a copy for yourself are in the description. Anyway, today we're going to introduce you to the women of Astonishing Times, Crossout, the telepath of the series, and Medika, our healer and overall badass. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Frank, Rui, and myself tell you what went into the making of these two characters.
One of the exciting parts of Astonishing Times and creating our new superhero universe is having a wide cast of characters. One of the newer characters we show as the series progresses is a character named Medika, who is, if we're thinking of like archetypal teams, we wanted to create a character who would be almost like, for lack of a better term, the healer. Almost taking the idea of someone who is a support and pushing them to 110%.
So we're first introduced to Medika in issue 3 of the series. At this point, Noah and Koken are making their way through the story, obviously, and they inevitably cross paths with Medika, who they just so happen to need her help, and she may or may not have other intentions.
Her power set is more passive than anybody else in the team. She has the ability to control organisms in terms of she can like increase or decrease their performance. It manifests mostly in being able to manipulate people's immune systems and recovery from injuries. That's how she chooses to use her powers. Philosophically, she's a pacifist. She's also like a genius level intellect, a qualified doctor and surgeon. She has some military background, but again, in the role of an army medic on the battlefield trying to save lives. She would generally be on the side of trying to keep the heroes in the fight, which is not to say that she's not a formidable, not only hand-to-hand, but she's good with weapons too, but she refuses to kill. So she's an interesting character in that regard.
With Medika, I think it was interesting to develop her and think a lot about almost this idea of a combat medic, but we wanted Medika to be active, to be someone who is in the field, and almost build her persona around the idea of someone who's seen the action, who's seen the danger, who has utility in the moment.
So as far as Medika's design goes, that was pretty much all Ruri. She's pretty much this like super high functioning medic from the military, but like she could also lay you out, right? So he gave her like a military feel, like he basically took like the medic vibes but made it more like tactical, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So one of her weapons is actually hidden in her hair. So those hairpins or chopsticks that look like they're in her bun back there are some of her weapons, or like her daggers. She uses them to fight a lot, but it's just kind of camouflaged in there that those are her, like one of her main weapons. So I think that's really cool that they're like hidden in plain sight.
It was a really interesting design challenge to make her look formidable, to make her look strong, but to also have these things that make her look strong actually be passive in nature. So the general look is very military, again, like tactical outfits, like flak jackets and armor plating and stuff, because she has to protect herself. She can heal herself, but I mean, she's not bulletproof or anything. She has defibrillator paddles on her belt, on her hips. These again, their primary use is to shock someone's heart back into rhythm, but they can also emit some electric charge if she has to tase somebody. I wanted to kit her out with a lot of these weapons and stuff that can be used both ways, so she looks like a formidable member of the team, but the weapons are used for what she wants to use them for. They're not put there for dressing or to like scare anybody or just to look cool and never be used. They have a practical use and they're not necessarily used for what you might think they are at first look. And I really like that about Medika as a character, that she's maybe not necessarily what meets the eye.
I think what readers want to watch out for Medika as we introduce her in issue 3 going forward is kind of seeing where her loyalties lie, because we're not too sure if she's over here or over there. So I think we just got to keep an eye out to see where she falls.
Crossout is a character in the Astonishing Times universe that is our psychic archetype. We knew we wanted to have a character who had kind of mental abilities, was able to use telekinesis, was able to basically control people's minds. And when we meet her in the world of Astonishing Times, you may not immediately recognize her or what she's doing, but by the time she comes to the forefront of the story, she has a very specific function into the bigger role of one faction of heroes. She's extremely intelligent, has a very high level power set, and we're able to explore it a little bit in the book and show, oh wow, this is the breadth of what she can do. But again, also a really smart scientist and someone who's thought a lot about the brain, who's thought a lot about the mind. And I feel like if we really take it apart, a lot of her involvement is something that allowed one of the factions of heroes to get to where they are in our story. She was able to lay a lot of the groundwork with her abilities and with her intelligence. And she is definitely someone who her backstory and what she's done in between the old days and the new days will fill in a lot of blanks of how this new faction came to power.
So with Crossout's power set, she was a really big part during the Cataclysm, because since she can control people's minds, she basically used that to control civilians' minds, right? Which, you know, was very helpful in coordination with characters like Gold Rush and Infinite, which is like, I got them, I'll route them here, you cover them, and I'll make sure they get to this point. So without her, it probably would have been really messy, because she's able to get into all these people's minds and get them to safety.
So with Crossout, she definitely has a lot of interesting plot mechanics happening in the story that you'll be able to spot her once you know it's her and think about how she's actually driving things forward. And particularly, as I said, she is going to really use her powers to draw out some of the past and provide some key insight into other characters' lives as well. So I'm excited for the audience to both see that, see the power set, and also just see how it's been portrayed on the page, because Ruri and Lauren really did a beautiful job of showing a really cool mental mindscape in the book as well.
Anybody who's familiar at all with superhero comics knows that the psychic, the telepath character tends to not really have as like stereotypical a look as like say the speedster or the Superman character or the vigilante and stuff. And so there was a lot more room to play around there, almost too much room to like sit down and try to think of what would a telepath look like. So essentially what I did was in January 2000, I'd done this thing on Twitter with my friend Joe Glass, where I done some like redesigns of the X-Men, and essentially Crossout is my design for Storm, only like reskinned with different colors. That was it. It was a design that I loved whenever I done it back like January last year, and I thought, yeah, well, you know, this is never going to be in the X-Men, so I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. And so that's where Crossout's design came from.
There's definitely challenges with a character like Crossout, who's less powerful than Infinite, when they may cross paths or come across a villain who's, you know, on par with Infinite. But I think that's the fun part of writing, right? Where you have to kind of work yourself out of this bind you put yourself in. It was like, okay, well, I know they're not as strong or as fast, but what do they have that might be able to get themselves out of the situation? You have to find smart ways, and I think that forces better writing, so it's actually kind of fun.
She's the intriguing character for us because we love the idea of, as I said, having a broad story that reaches across a big timeline. And we had heroes who back in the day were very much in their superhero mode. They were just saving the world, doing only good things. And now they've moved forward a bit and we're finding new applications of their powers and thinking about, oh, how could I actually service society a little more? Like, if I'm a psychic, like, what does that mean? Like, is there more to just like making bank robbers drop their guns? And in that way, Crossout is really interesting to me because when we do see her in the book, we're gonna get a very different look that her versus like how she would be seen when she was a superhero.
So again, as the story progresses, you're really gonna want to keep a close eye on Crossout because, you know, as we start rounding out the first arc here, we're gonna see where she falls. Is she on this side? Is she on that side? We're gonna find out. And just like that, you have a glimpse of how and why we came up with the women of Astonishing Times, Crossout, and Medika. I hope you guys enjoyed getting an exclusive sneak peek behind the curtain of these two characters, and I can't wait for you guys to read their stories in coming issues. Like I mentioned earlier, you can dive into the story and the world of these characters right now because Astonishing Times issues are available for your reading pleasure exclusively on Comixology and Kindle. You could also read it for free if you're a Prime or Kindle Unlimited member. So we hope you all check it out because we made it for you, the Variant Nation. Also, this is the last of our Astonishing Times Spotlight episodes, but definitely not the end of our AT coverage as we continue to talk about the rest of the series through the end of the first arc with issue 5. And that's going to bring today's episode of Variant to a close, but if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps the channel out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.